So this next video is going to be how to raise the clay or make it taller. First, we centered the clay. Then we put our finger in the middle and opened it. Then we widened the bottom 3 fingers wide. And now we're ready to raise the clay up with our hands. Now there are a lot of different ways to raise the clay, and I'm not going to go through all of them. There's a lot of things that can go wrong at this stage. This is the stage where you're most likely to make a mistake that will cause you to start over. I would encourage you to once you start messing up your cylinder, cut it off and start a new one, because you need more practice centering and opening to learn those skills, where you can do those things very quickly without a lot of thought, so that you can get to practicing the raising part, because this is going to be the most difficult step so far. Okay, so when we're raising the clay, what we're trying to do is have our left hand, which goes on the inside, and our right hand, which goes on the outside. We want them to talk to each other, pushing back and forth, pushing in on the clay, and lifting at the same pace, all the while them not being able to touch because there's a wall in between them. So if you imagine 2 people trying to talk to each other through a wall, it would be very difficult to talk that way. But if you yell loud enough, or you tap on the wall to make sounds, 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no, you could communicate. So you're trying to learn how to get your hands to communicate with each other through a wall. It's kind of challenging. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about hand position. Again, our elbows are into our body, our hands are close to the clay, and our bodies is close to the clay. It's important when you first start to learn how to raise that you have your hands touching each other. One of our goals is to get our hands to move up at the same pace on either side of the wall. When you first learn, your hands are going to be moving back and forth, one hand too fast, one hand too slow. So what you're going to try to learn how to do is connect your hands. So you'll notice my hands are close to each other. My right hand is on the outside, my left hand is on the inside. My hands are touching each other. I'm like this right now. It could be in any position you want, but I have my hands connected. And I'm going to squeeze and lift up. And the clay got a little bit taller. I'm going to make these raises very small and slow so you can see all the different hand positions. I think the easiest way to raise, the first time you raise it, we call that a pull. The first pull, I think it's easiest if you use your right hand. You make a fist, and then you lift 1 knuckle up out of the fist, like this, and you use this part of your knuckle to raise it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my knuckle into the clay and make a little dent by pushing in. You'll see a small dent there. And then with my inside hand, I'm going to push out against it, and my knuckle is just going to lift up and kind of roll over. So I'm going to kind of roll my knuckle over to the top as I raise it, and this is like what's called a knuckle pull. Okay. And now the clay got slightly taller. Now, when I did that, my body was anchored, the wheel was spinning, and I moved my hands slowly. If you see a really quick line like that, you're moving your hands too fast. We want to move our hands with the rhythm of the wheel, so we have to move nice and slow. You shouldn't see any big spirals yet. Okay. Now, if you don't like using your knuckle, you can use your fingers. Some people use a sponge on the outside. This is something you're going to have to experiment to see what you like to do. Okay. But in general, I'm going to show you what's happening is that I first push in with my outside hand, and I make a small groove. Okay? Then with my inside hand, I push out and I make a little bump. So I have like this little fat belly on the bottom. My outside hand, my right hand, is going to push up on this part, and my inside hand pushes out. And I'm underneath this little ridge, and it floats all the way up. This is an incredibly difficult skill to learn. You will get it in time, but it will take you a little while to be able to make those bumps and make them travel all the way up to the top. I'm going to cut this in half so I can show you what my fingers are doing on the inside as well, because I know you can't see my left hand on the inside. But I made the bump, it's traveling up. I'm going to stop right in the middle. I'm going to cut this in half so you can see what's going on. Right, let's do that. So what I want you to notice first is you can see the thickness of my bottom. It's about 1/4 of an inch. The walls are getting pretty thin because I raised it a few times. You probably wouldn't want to make it this thin when you're first learning, because you'll probably twist it. But you can see what I'm doing here. When I push with my finger on the outside at this bottom, the first thing I'm doing is I'm pushing in, and then I'm pushing out. and I'm making this little ridge. And then I push that ridge up, and you can see that ridge. I stopped right here. This is my finger position. I have my fingers that are on the outside. They're underneath a little bump. The fingers on the inside are inside that bump. And my fingers, they move together. So they're moving like this, up. This hand underneath this little bump, this hand on the inside. When I lift it up, you'll see it straightens the clay out. Like this. And what you'll notice is that the clay would get taller and thinner when I do that. So on this side, you can see that bump is there. And my job on this hand here is to travel the clay like this. Okay? So I'm here, like that. And eventually it'll start to rip, but you'll notice the clay got thinner and thinner each time I did that. That's our hand position. It's very difficult to learn, but that is the process of raising.